Hey everybody, Michael LaFido. Welcome to the Luxury Listing Specialist Podcast. I'm your host. You're in the right place, whether you're a newer agent or a seasoned veteran, whether you're with an independent brokerage or a large franchise. There's going to be something for everybody. We are really excited. This is episode 204. This is our 204th podcast. Literally, you can go to luxurylistingpodcast.com, Luxury Listing Podcast, to listen to previous episodes. We just celebrated our 200th episode, and we had undercover billionaire Glenn. We had Glenn Stearns on that podcast episode. And episode 202, we talked with a gentleman out of Miami, Tony Martinez. He just launched a luxury division less than 4 months ago. He used our course as a springboard to launch his luxury division. So we pick his brain on how things are going, why he wanted a dedicated luxury division. So that's episode 202. By the way, Tony's also the president of the CDPE designation, Certified Distressed Property Expert. So on that episode, we also talked about, in his mind, does he think we're going to see more short sales and foreclosures? Again, if you're getting value from this podcast or previous podcast, please leave us a 5-star review, leave us a like, share it. And for those of you that are watching the recording of our podcast, feel free to type in any comments. But those that are listening to this podcast, you're driving right now, you're listening, you can always send us an email, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com, michael@marketingluxurygroup. And again, if you have questions for Connor, just go ahead and type those in the comments section. And we look forward to helping you guys. Again, my email is michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. Again, each Friday, just a reminder, each Friday we come to you live with various live streams where you can ask us any questions. We call that AMA, Ask Me Anything. And many times we'll have special guests on our Luxury Fridays that we don't have on our podcast. Again, we do podcasts twice a month, and we do Luxury Fridays 4 times a month. So go to luxuryfridays.com. All right. I want to give you a little background on today's guest. And before I bring on our guest, I was approached. I sold a home several years ago for a gentleman. It was a $900,000 home in a beautiful community, backed up to a golf course. And I was not the first agent. It was listed previously. And Walter had given me a call to market his home. And we had a great relationship, and we got it sold. And Walter reached out one day and said, my grandson is thinking about getting in real estate. Would you ever consider an intern? I said, well, actually, I've had interns in the past. So yes, I'd be welcome on your grandson. He said, well, he's not in the area. He's going to college in North Carolina. But if he were to intern for you, he might live with me for the summer. So with that being said, I had an intern last summer, and I want to bring on Dugan Reilly. Dugan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, hey, Dugan. And Dugan right now is living down in Tennessee, and that's part of the story. So before we talk about today, let's talk about last summer. So last summer, Dugan, you interned for me. You went to High Point University, and you just graduated less than 3 months ago, right? May 7th of 2022, you graduated. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yep.
And you graduated with an entrepreneurship background. And tell everybody a little bit about how that conversation started with Grandpa when he said, hey, have you ever thinking about real estate? I got to introduce you to the real estate agent that sold our house in Aurora, Illinois. So tell everybody a little backstory on Grandpa and his conversation he had with you, introducing me to you virtually.
So, I was reaching out, seeing what I could get for the summer as an internship. I was reaching out to friends and family that, we usually do to see who has good connections as far as who could help us out get an internship. And I reached out to my grandpa, which is Walter, who Michael was talking about. And, he reached out to who he knew in the Chicagoland area. And Michael is one of those people that he reached out to. I was looking at a few different avenues as far as, real estate, social media marketing, other marketing, sales, all around the general business idea.
Trying to figure out what you wanted to do when you graduated.
Yeah. And so, my grandpa said, "Oh, what about real estate?" And I said, I've always thought about it as a young kid. I've always wanted to, I've watched, HDTV Flip or Flop and all those different houses and or different shows, sorry, about building houses and all that. And that was always something that was interesting to me, at least. And I was like, oh, maybe selling real estate would be something, along the lines you get to be in and out of the houses, still be part of that journey of building houses or getting that family remodeling the house or whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
that's a little background about that.
Yeah, thank you for the backstory. So, fast forward, his grandpa introduced us. We had a call, and that was 6 months before you even decided to come out. So you moved out, you lived with grandpa and grandma, and that had to be special. But yet, as a 20, 21-year-old and having a girlfriend and social life, you were living in their terms and had to respect that. So last year, you came out and you worked, you interned for me as a real estate agent, but I also run the consulting company, Lux, right? We're the founder of the luxury designation. We've had four in-person events so far in 2022, and we just announced our next in-person designation training. It's going to be in Milwaukee, September 21st. Go to luxurydesignation.com for more information about that in-person event. And so, Dugan, you were like a sponge. You asked a lot of questions. And you wanted to learn why did we do explain things a certain way, or why did we do something a certain way. You went on listing appointments with us. You went on showings. We've had videos. I remember we did an unveiling where I had seen an amazing property that we've since sold. It was the highest sale ever in the town called Winfield, Illinois, and the house needed a lot of updating and neutralizing and staging. And I remember you seeing that house for the first time right before you went back to school. So tell everybody a little bit about some of the experiences of what you were hoping to get out of the internship, and just looking back about a year ago, what were some of the hands-on experiences that you received through internship?
hmm Yeah. So, I mean, what I was looking for, as a typical college student, you don't really know what you're looking for when you go in. You just take the opportunity, you go through the door that is open for you, and you just go head first in to see what works. So, I didn't really have any expectations or anything getting out of it. Maybe, the only expectation I did have is like, oh, maybe like if this is something that is, a fit for me, I would like to get my license over the summer. And I did get that over the fall because it took
Now
me a
you
little
signed up.
while.
I remember you signed up during the internship. I remember you saying you went to, because at that time you were a student in North Carolina. And where was home for you again?
So, I mean, home's pretty much a lot of different places. I mean, I was born actually in the Chicagoland area, but lived in Philly for a while and, lived in Boston for a little bit. So I would say home for me is the Chicagoland area, but
The
um,
last summer, like when you were in college, when you went back to see mom, dad, home was Boston.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so you were in Boston. You went to college in North Carolina. You didn't know anybody in Tennessee where you currently are licensed, but your girlfriend already accepted a nursing position, and so you knew when you were when you signed up for Tennessee real estate classes, the whole reason you took classes there and were going to be a licensed agent in Tennessee, where you didn't know anybody, was because that's where your girlfriend was going. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yep.
last summer you signed up for the Tennessee real estate license online, and you officially got licensed the fall, December, uh, late fall, and and then you graduated in May, correct?
I graduated
So
in May. Yep.
3 days after you graduated, fast forward, 3 days after you graduated, so you graduated May 7th, 3 days after that was May 11th, you moved down to Tennessee without knowing a soul except your girlfriend,
hmm
starting a brand new career without a database in a sphere. So again, those of you that are listening to this, one of the first things that many real estate coaches or brokers will tell an agent is, hey, go through your database, people that know you, like you, trust you. I didn't have social media when I got licensed in 2000, but I'm sure they tell you now, go to your Facebook friends or your LinkedIn connections and figure out and let people know that you're in real estate. Now you could still do that, even though you had connections in Boston and Chicago, but you didn't have any connections in Tennessee. So you go down there, not knowing anybody, and a brand new licensed agent. The good news is you had some mentorship through your internship. You went through our luxury designation class. You've been on a lot of our trainings virtually. Of course, we've been available to answer questions. So you get licensed in May, and one of the things I teach, a concept that I teach agents, and I taught to Dugan about this, was leveraging other people's properties until you have your own portfolio. So in this case, open houses. So Dugan, as a new agent, didn't have any listings, but he leveraged open houses. So up until the point of this, you've been licensed in Tennessee and living in Tennessee for less than 3 months, but you've done about 15 open houses at other people's listings. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And tell me about how that dialogue, some of those within the company you're with, you're currently a licensed agent at EXP. So some of those were EXP and some of them outside of EXP. Is that correct?
Yeah. So as far as how that went, I was thinking,
Real quick. So
yeah.
every state's different. So in Tennessee, you can host open houses within your brokerage, of course, but outside your brokerage. And so Dugan has done both within and out. Check with your broker for wherever you're listening. In the state of Illinois, where I'm based, it's my understanding you can't do that. So check with your broker, check with your real estate board. But Dugan has done open houses, hosted open houses at listings within his brokerage and outside of his brokerage. And so tell me a little bit about, if we were to role play, and I've coached you up on this and
Hmm.
helped you uh, position it, like I say, on a silver platter. I tell agents, the listing agent on the other line, when they pick up that phone, they only care about what's in it for them and what are you going to do to save them time, aggravation, and money. So when you call people to potentially host open houses at their listings, tell me a range of feedback. Some people are shocked, or some people are trying to figure out what's in it for you, or some people understand it. What's been the range of feedback or response that you've received?
Yeah. So I did try calling a lot of agents. Unfortunately, that didn't seem to work out as best as I would like it to. So I reverted back to the easy option of texting the agent. A lot of agents like that option better just because they're always busy. They can't always answer the phone. So how it all kind of happened, I was just, looking through the MLS one day, and I was going through whatever the highest price property was on the MLS all the way down to the lowest price property on the MLS. And I texted at one point, I got to almost 500 agents that I texted and sent out my personalized message saying, "Hey, like my name is Dugan Reilly. I'm brand new to the area here in Nashville with EXP Realty. I would love to help you out in any way I can. I am luxury listed certified. I work with Michael Lafita, the top luxury real estate agent in Chicagoland, and I work with other big time people in the real estate as far as Alina Cardone or Tyreek El Muso. So I had to name drop a little bit here and there to get their attention. And a lot of people said, were pretty rude. They said, I don't really know who you are and I don't care who you are. A lot of people said, sorry, I need to have a team. Like, no need to help me here. And then you get the few here and there that, they're really helpful in what they do. And they gave me the opportunity to host an open house. So it was kind of like a snowball effect after, the first weekend. The first weekend wasn't all glitz and glamour. I was doing, I believe, an open house for an EXP agent. Um, I can't remember what price that was, but I think it was sub $1 million. So, which is for our market, average in my county is 800,000, I think, for our Davidson County. But outside of our county, Williamson County is one of the most expensive here in the state of Tennessee. So average there is
Okay, so
1.2.
So real quick, so you got a lot of pushback. Just to recap, if you're just joining us, Michael Lafito here. This is episode 204 of our luxury listing podcast. I have on Dugan Reilly. He's been licensed real estate agent in Tennessee for less than 3 months. He's already hosted about 15 open houses. He's just telling us about the experience. Initially, a lot of no's, no's, no's. Agents were rude, they were skeptical. And so he's fast forward. He finally got somebody to say, yes, you can host an open house and sub million, but still safe to say between 700 and 900,000.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, there's some agents that won't ever list a home in the 700 and 900 or work with a 700 and 900 buyer. There's some markets that have more of those than others. Your market's a strong market. Nashville, Tennessee area, Florida, some markets have benefited because of the pandemic, and that is one of them. So, so you did, let's call it 800,000. You did your first open house. Some agents are listening to this saying, wow, what a great opportunity. I'd love to sell a 700, $800,000 home. So that was your first. So you
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about, you've done about 15, what you've learned through doing those open houses. What are some best practices you're doing to leverage those open houses? What are some things that, in full transparency, some struggles that you've had? Maybe you don't know
Mhm.
the home as much. Maybe you feel like you're doing, I need to get back to you on that because they're asking tough questions. So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about some of the things you've learned through the first 15 and what are your best practices that you're rolling out if you were to do an open house this weekend. And by the way, are you doing one this weekend?
Mhm. Yeah, I am.
Nice. What price point?
4.2.
Awesome. So tell me about some of the things that you've learned from those open houses, and then we'll focus on maybe in a positive way, and then we'll talk about maybe some turbulence in
Mhm.
full transparency that you've gone through.
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't the perfect right away. It was, it took some time. It took different weekends to really build on what I didn't know and learn from that, and then build on what I did know and capitalize on that. So, one of the first was definitely making sure people sign in. I know that was something that I gotten better at, even if it was like posting a 8 by 12 page on the front door and saying, hey, welcome to the open house. Your host is Dugan Reilly. Please sign in when you get in the door. And so that has definitely been helpful. And it also has been, I've been working in different ways here and there, like doing like a giveaway or like a $25 Starbucks gift card giveaway or something like that, as far as an incentive to people to sign in. So that's one of the ways, I struggled in the first place, but I'm still building on it and trying to get it to where it's pretty good, so I don't lose any people. Other ways, you really study up on the house as going into it. Um, you could study up a little bit more as everyone. You kind of forget some stuff when you get in there. Um, and then another one would be like I get distracted talking to and building rapport, and then I don't ask them like the valuable questions that would help me out in the first place. So it's been a building game, as far as what I know and what I don't know.
Sure.
um, so I mean the best
Have you
practice.
had, go ahead.
Yeah.
Best
Yeah,
practices.
the best practices would be, making sure, which is the craziest thing to me, is the first thing is making sure you put signs out. A lot of people don't put signs out, which is for the craziest thing for me, because it's like, well, how do you know like this person's doing an open house? And I just got a 15-foot EXP flag that says open house with my face on it. I've been using that, got a lot of good feedback, and I got a lot of negative feedback. So,
Who's the negative feedback from other real estate agents or home seller or homeowners around that house? We lost Dugan for a split second. No, I can't. I cannot hear you right now. So, do no, I cannot hear you. So the question to you, Dugan, was who's been giving you push feedback here? So while Dugan is figuring out his audio, just
I
to,
can you hear me now?
there we go. Yes.
Yeah.
So Dugan, who's been giving you grief, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Yeah, so, um, it's mostly neighbors. So I did a, open house last weekend in a neighborhood in, Thompson Station here. And it was, it was a neighborhood with an HOA fee on it, and so, they
Okay.
have certain rules and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I did not post it inside the neighborhood. I posted it outside the gates
Yeah.
on, on the other side of the road. And, a lot of people in the community on Facebook posted about it. So, you live and learn, so you kind of
Well,
have
you're
to.
not going to make everybody happy, Dugan. One thing you might know, I told this to you last year. If you want to make everybody happy, like Steve Jobs says, sell ice cream. But even if you sold
Mhm,
ice cream, people would complain. So
mhm,
sounds like you followed the rules. You didn't have any signs within the community, which is probably
mhm,
against the HOA. There's pros and cons to HOAs. We've talked about
mhm,
that. I recently released a video on the pros and the cons of homeowners association. So you've gotten some pushback. So, but the big image with your face on it
mhm,
with open house overall has been good, but there's some negative there. What are some other best practices? Signing in, photos.
mhm,
What kind of pre-marketing? What are you doing to try to get traffic? I
mhm,
know I suggested to you knocking on doors across the street, 10 houses across, five, as well as five to the left of the home, five to the right, and maybe offering up a little window beforehand where it's private just for the neighbors. So in other words, doing an open house Sunday from 1 to 3, but between 12 and noon, we're having a special preview just for the neighbors. Wouldn't it be nice to let the next potential buyer know about this home? Perhaps you've entertained and somebody says, hey, let me know when a house comes on in this neighborhood. I love it. And so have you been able to leverage any door knocking or notes or letters?
mhm. Yeah. So, um, in our market, door knocking is not usually a thing and is pretty frowned upon, especially in the higher end neighborhoods. So I've done um, s- I haven't done door knocking here, just because it's frowned upon, and I don't want to be to get too much in trouble here. But I have done mailers. I have done handing out other mailers as far as open house postcards. So
Hmm.
I have done. I ran around the neighborhood before one open house, put out like 50 postcards, and I got, I believe, one or two neighbors from it, so a good return
Sure.
on that. But I have done, let's see, the mailers have been really awesome. um you pay for it through USPS. You can buy routes. You can, you upload it on EXP. You get your own design and you give it to them, and they go ahead and drop it off to every single home on that route. So that has been
Good.
really interesting to
So
use.
mailers
Yeah.
are good for you. All right.
um
So many people listening to this podcast, the topic was, you've done a $4.2 million open house, you've done a 4.5, you've been down there for less than 3 months, you know, and you've shared with me offline because, we talked about how do you leverage it. The one $4.2 million listing I took a look at. I recommend you do some videos beforehand promoting it, do some walkthroughs, leveraging it, getting of course, the listing agent's permission to do that. Uh, and you had 20 people through the $4.2 million. Talk to me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so that was definitely a pretty exciting experience. Never had that many people come through at one time, so pretty nerve wracking, pretty exciting. You get all these emotions going through when all these people are starting to rush through the door. So it was a different experience, but I liked it. You kind of have to learn, like I said, you got to build on what you know and what you don't know. So I kind of got I kind of got confused, and I kind of lost track of the people that came in, didn't get to talk to everyone, which is, it's going to
A lot of
happen. But
people, a lot of traffic.
yeah.
And this was a
And
vacant new construction. So from a liability, somebody's got the Rolex watch out there, whatever, you were covered there. Not like there was thieves in there, but they could case the home still. But regardless, you were overwhelmed because there's one of you and there's multiple families, and you wanted to greet everybody and you wanted to build rapport with everybody, but it's tough to do when there's one of
mhm,
you and 20 of them.
mhm,
Is that
mhm.
accurate?
Yeah, for
Did you
sure.
do a sign in on that one? I know you're doing sign ins now, and what do you typically get? 50% sign in, 2/3 sign in?
Yeah, for that one, it wasn't a great percentage on the sign in. Because I had so much traffic, it was, I couldn't really talk to everyone and get people to sign in. So Unfortunately, I had like one or two people sign in.
Okay, so let's
Um,
just say one. You got one of 20. Okay, that's 5%. Obviously,
mhm.
it can be improved upon. Uh, did you give out more than one business card to everybody?
Yeah, so that's the one thing I am trying to work on a little bit is, I get used to just handing people my card and be like, "Hey, if you need any help, here's my card. Would love
Yeah,
to help you in any way." Instead of, having them sign in and it sends them off like a page of me, about me and then the
yeah.
listing. So, I've been handing out cards left and right. And I've been
And that's
going
a
through
good
them.
thing, but you can't make the assumption that they're going to contact you. Some people don't see value in business cards. Our business cards are thick, they're memorable, but I always like to ask them, Dugan, what's the best way to be in touch with you? Is it text? Is it email? Uh, and I like to get their digits, their contact information, because I don't want to make the assumption they're going to call us. And we've talked a little bit about that. So 1 out of 20 signed in. You've done an open house at a $4.5 million, which has
Mhm,
generated a buyer that's looking in at 2.5 to 5 million. Tell everybody a little bit
mhm.
about that.
Yeah, so I actually went
By the way,
and
these are both the 4.2 and now this 4.5. They're not within your brokerage. They're outside the brokerage,
mhm.
correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so tell everybody about the 4.5 and how the buyer, the 2.5 to $5 million unrepresented buyer came about, and what you did to bring value and what you're doing or trying to do to continue to bring value and stay in touch with them.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, so it was actually the night before I was doing the open house for the 4.5. I was going through, gonna go there, set up my signs, put up my flag, create some buzz overnight for people to come in. And the listing agent of the property was there actually doing an open house that same day. She told me to come in, she wanted to really introduce herself and get to know me. And so, she had a buyer because the thing about it, she is working for the builder, so she can't sell real estate outside of um, the home. So she has to, refer buyers that come
Oh,
in that don't want the home
sure.
to other agents.
Can she
So
collect a referral fee?
yes, she can.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big thing here is there's a lot of agents that work for, builders and other developers here in the area on these higher end communities. And a lot of these agents cannot sell to people or help people
sure.
buy
Yeah.
outside of the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
the builder wants them 100% focused on selling their product, their properties. So in this case, she had a buyer that wasn't interested in that property, but she handed off the lead, so to speak, to you.
Hmm.
You cheerfully said, "I'll pay a referral fee." And
Hmm.
fast forward, how are you doing now? Have you taken them out? Have you talked to them? Have you met face to face?
Yeah, so we've talked actually that night. So I talked with the clients for about, a good hour and a half. I was talking with them about, their goals, their dreams. They asked me about my goals and my dreams. And we really got a strong connection going. Actually, me and the wife are going to probably start setting up a networking group for other luxury businesses around the area because she sells luxury Disney vacations. So she's in
Great.
that space.
By the
So,
way, that's one of the strategies that I taught Dugan. I teach other agents, right? Is join a chamber of commerce and eventually start your own networking group, a luxury networking group, and we can talk about that at a different time. So you have a good rapport with her. Um, have you taken them out to see any properties? If so, what are the price points there?
hmm. Yeah, so I've gotten a little range about what they kind of want to look at. They're being a little picky. Obviously, everyone would in that price range. But they're not looking to buy for 12 to 18 months from now. So definitely
So it's
a
a
long
longer
way.
relationship.
Correct.
Okay.
Um,
So let's talk about that right now. What can Dugan Riley or what can our listeners do right now when you have that buyer that's 6 months, 9 months, 12 to 18 months out, or that seller that's 12 to 18 months? Stay in communication with them, whether it be a text or, hey, this property came on. I know we're premature here a little bit, but you know, trying to get and zone in on what they like, what their likes are, and what their interests are, and bring value, right? Whether it be educational videos for buyers, sellers, market updates. Continue to bring value, Dugan, would be my recommendation. so that they are loyal to you. They realize you know what the heck you're doing. Are they relocating from the Nashville market or outside of Tennessee?
No, so they actually been here in Nashville for about 2.5 years now.
Perfect. So they
So
should have some relationships already. So you just, now that you've built some rapport, just subtly, you know, if I were to role play with you and you were them, hey Dugan, I know we're about 18 months out before you're ready to really pull the trigger, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, but because you're going through open houses, because I'm talking to you about real estate, your antenna's up, so to speak. We call that a reticulator activator, and you're going to hear other people talking about buying or selling real estate because you're, even though we're a little further out, you're kind of going through that process now. So again, I work on a referral based. I'd love the opportunity to help them, or if you know of anybody who needs a second opinion, keep me in mind. So that's the dialogue that our listeners right now, you need to have with current buyers, current sellers. Plant the seed on how you work on a referral based primarily, and when they hear people thinking about buying or selling, that they contact you. So we're coming up on about 30 minutes here, Dugan. We try to keep these in a half hour. Before I recap everything, uh, before jumping on here, we talked about what were some of the three big takeaways you got from interning from us last summer. And you said overall, just thinking outside the box, but I wrote these down. Number one, you kind of learn the ins and the outs of real estate, the good, bad, and the ugly, so to speak, correct?
yep, yeah,
Number two, what the difference is of selling typical, what I call average properties versus luxury, some of the ins and the outs. That was one of your second big takeaway. Is that correct?
yep,
And then you talk about branding and marketing as number three. My tagline, it's not the market, it's the marketing. And I tell agents, don't think like real estate agents, think like marketers. And you saw us incorporating a lot of video last year, did you not?
yes, I did. Yeah,
So I've even noticed, I've encouraged you, and you weren't necessarily comfortable. Actually, last year we were taking a look at, if you recall, that home on Equestrian, and I surprised Dugan with a Facebook Live. We were just finishing up; it was his last day, and I put the camera on him, and I didn't want him to feel totally uncomfortable, but I wanted him to step out of his comfort zone, because that's where the magic happens. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not consistently putting videos out there for buyers, for sellers, live videos, you don't have a YouTube video, I strongly recommend it. You can talk to people about where you were at when I surprised you with the video, and where you're at today, comfort level wise, and what recommendations do you have for people when it comes to video particularly.
yeah. No, like in the moment, you don't expect it, but like it's one of those things where like you don't feel comfortable doing it, but you have to do it to be a real estate agent. Like you say, shy realtors have skinny kids, so
That's right.
when you're shy, and you're not willing to go outside your comfort zone and work on being surprised and going outside your comfort zone, you got to work on that. So nowadays, yeah, I do it a lot more than I used to. And I am getting a little bit more comfortable. I'm starting to, post out YouTube videos about, informational for, first time home buyers, or, pros and cons of what is like living in Nashville, growing that education and that information for people that are coming here from different states. So I'm definitely getting a little bit more, comfortable in that space. But you're never gonna be completely comfortable. I feel like you're always gonna be uncomfortable at something you do as far as social media. So it's about taking action and just doing it, and getting up, taking the action. Press record. So like it's just all about pressing the record button. You may not ever be completely prepared,
Mhm.
but you just got to do it. You got to build on it. You got to learn from what you did in the past, and work on doing that. So
Perfect. You hit the nail on the head, stepping out of your comfort zone and be consistent with it, right? Do you feel like you're better today than you were initially when you started producing videos some couple months ago?
Yeah, no, I definitely do feel a little bit better. Still working on the consistency part because that's the hardest thing for anything in business is staying consistent. That's definitely a challenging part.
Yeah, so a reminder for those of you that are listening, some tips to stay consistent. Have some visual reminders. Have a goal board, right? Here we are. Uh, at the timing of this, we're in August of 2022. We have actually 4 months left, and the year just a little over 4 months. So you have a third of the year left to finish strong. So have some great visual reminders about your 2022 goals, or maybe you want to get that muscle car or that vacation home. And so when you don't feel like doing it that day, having those reminders sometimes is an extrinsic motivation, a reason to do that. So many agents feel before they break into luxury, they have to be licensed X amount of years, live in a certain home, sell X amount of houses. You've sold one home, it was 700,000 to this point, and there was a little bit of an asterisk because it was your girlfriend's house
Hmm.
that you helped her buy. So knowing some of the misconceptions, you got to be with a certain brokerage, licensed X amount of years, live in a certain community. Those are some of the misconceptions as well with our Lux designation, Dugan. Many agents feel that they have to have sold previous luxury homes to get certified in luxury. And of course, you've gone through our course. Do you recommend agents, even if they're newer agents like you, or you went through our course before you even officially licensed in the state of Tennessee? Do you recommend that, or do you recommend agents wait and several years down the road break into luxury?
No, yeah, no, I definitely recommend you doing the course. It's really helpful because I've actually seen it a lot here. A lot of agents got into the business around March 2020, and they got in where stuff was flying off the market. They could list a house and it was so easy. They're making all this money, and now stuff is sitting longer. So the techniques that you teach is like the techniques that you need to know when stuff sits longer. The average days on the market is longer. How do you market the property? Because like you said, it's not about the market, it's about the marketing. So as even when stuff sits longer, it's about really positioning the property in the best light for other people to see. So I do recommend taking it. It teaches you all the different aspects of what you would need to know, whether you do luxury or your goal's not to do luxury. It hits all the different price points for sure. Um, so it's definitely a good course to take if you're just starting out, or you just are been doing it for a while. It touches on all different points that I think are not taught in other courses for sure.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Dugan. We're going to have you on a Luxury Fridays, and we'll check in. Good luck with your open house this weekend of 4.5 million. Dugan Reilly, greatly appreciate your time and keep raising the bar.
Thank you. I appreciate for being on.
All right, you're welcome. So, folks, that was Dugan Reilly. I hope this is helpful to you. If you have a suggestion for a guest, maybe you would like to be a guest on our podcast or an upcoming Luxury Fridays. Again, you can go to luxuryfridays.com for more information on us and when our next live stream is. Go to luxuryfridays.com. But please shoot me an email if that's something that you're interested in, you want to nominate someone, or you think you'd be a guest. You have a great story. We'd like to hear about it. And prove others wrong is a motto we live by. And the last thing I'll leave you with is why not you? Each year, there's agents that go from startup to rock star agents, or from selling average properties to luxury homes. Why not you? What you focus on expands. So make sure that you have your inner sphere, your people that you talk to, what you're listening to, what you're reading to is your foundation. That's going to be really important to take your business to the next level. Again, leave us a 5-star review or a like or share it if we've earned it. My name is Michael LaFido. Until next time, you're listening to another episode of the Luxury Listing Specialist Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LaFido. Remember, it's not the market, it's the marketing. Take care.